New year, fresh start, time to recreate myself. What will I find when I walk down this path? New friends, new goals, new challenges to be met. I will meet them, and I am going to succeed. New year, fresh start, it's time for self-discovery.
Episode 23, Undone. Noah climbed to the top of the stairs and finally made his way to the front door of the palace. Demon and Archangel bodies lay in front of the broken set of double doors. Pools of silver and black blood melded together, forming unusual and strikingly mesmerizing images. As he moved over the bodies, Noah recognized several of the angel faces. His heart sank. He ran inside and didn't take the time to appreciate the thick crimson carpets, the walls filled with oil paintings of previous demon heroes and rulers, or the exquisite chandeliers made from black crystal. The sounds of combat echoed from somewhere in the palace, and so Noah followed his ears. He eventually found himself at the entrance of the demon throne room. Like the outer doors, these doors were smashed inside as well. Archdemon and Archangel bodies lay scattered about, but one particular body caught Noah's attention more so than anyone else's. King Yagodon laid on his back, with his family surrounding him. Kazuna's older brother had a huge gash on his chest, but he was still upright. Of Kazuna's 3 sisters, one of them had been killed, and she laid beside the body of her father. Her chest didn't rise and fall like King Yagodon's did. Another of Kazuna's sisters was missing her right arm. Isa sat beside the king and she fed a potion into his mouth. A worried mask adorned Isa's face. Kazuna and Demi stood on either side of Kasina. Kazuna had numerous slashes and slices across her body, and yet she still blasted magical attacks at the Archangel swordsman. Demi was also bleeding heavily from her side, but she still fought on as well. Kasina looked, well, she looked terrible. Her face had been carved open, and yet her body slowly healed itself. Kasina's eyes still blazed with an absolute hatred, and she grinned, despite how ghoulish she looked.
You can't kill me! No one can kill me! I am the greatest angel warrior ever! Not even Arcadian could defeat the mighty Yagodon!
Noah ran up to where the 3 stood, and he leveled his spear in front of him. Kazuna and Demi regarded him, which caused Kasina to look as well.
Oh look, it's Marzo. Are you going to try and stop me too? Thanks to the first gift you ever gave me, I killed Yagodon, and I'll use it to kill you!
Noah glanced at Isa.
Is he really dead?
No. I managed to stabilize him, but couldn't save his other daughter.
Not dead yet. No matter. I'll kill you all, and then I will kill him. Arcadian will be so happy with me. And this is finally going to be over.
You have to stop this now. Once Arcadian gets the Pythandrel, then he won't just stop with Hellos. All worlds will be in danger. This war will drag on forever until everyone is wiped away. Is that the kind of future you want for our daughter?
The sense of madness that once danced in Kasina's eyes shrank a little, and she stared at Noah harder. Demi's, Kazuna's, and Isa's eyes opened a little wider as well.
Wait. What?
No time to explain now, but Diane told me that I'm her father.
Kasina slashed her sword in front of her and then moved closer to Noah. When Demi and Kazuna moved to block, Kasina started slashing at them, all the while looking at Noah.
Did you kill our baby? Just like you destroyed our world?
Much of her face had returned to its normal state, and yet she still looked as crazed as before. Kasina dodged under Kazuna's magical ray, and then cut open the bottom of Kazuna's arm. Her muscle tissue opened up like it was smiling.
It's all your fault! Marzo betrayed our people, for you! Die!
Kasina raised her sword and brought it down with all of her might. It collided with EA's shaft, and a loud clang rang out. Noah stood over the proned Kazuna, and then he shoved Kasina away. The Archangel flew back about 10 feet and then surged forward. Noah spun his spear and deflected her sword tip.
Demi, get Kazuna away! This is my fight and mine alone!
Noah locked gazes with his ex-lover, and neither he nor she said anything. They spoke through their weapons and through the clashing of magical steel. Kasina took to the air, and Noah chased after her. Even on his best day, without additional artifacts, Kasina had always been better. Her blade nicked into his arms, his thighs, and his stomach. Silver blood coated her blade, and yet Kasina didn't rejoice. Her smile died, and it was replaced with a frown. Tears welled in her eyes. Noah dove for the ground, and yet Kasina never allowed him an inch of space. She knew all too well what he could do with the tiniest of advantages. Why hadn't he summoned all of his battle regalia? Up till this point, he didn't need it. But Kasina was unlike any other opponent he had ever faced, aside from Arcadian.
Is she dead?
Kasina arced her blade around, and yet no one knew her fighting style well enough to deflect her attacks. Unfortunately, in his current state, Noah couldn't match her natural speed and grace.
No. Diane is alive and undamaged. Why didn't you tell me?
It wasn't your fucking business! You left us! You left me!
Noah flipped above Kasina and then tried to spear her in the skull. Even though she couldn't die, it was still a risk worth taking. She knocked the tip away from her and then pivoted to face Noah once more.
And you married Arcadian! Tell me, were you sleeping with him the same time you were sleeping with me?
Kasina leapt back away from Noah, and her eyes had gone as wide as they could. A sudden acidic slime appeared in Noah's stomach, and he instantly regretted saying that. Then again, she was far enough away from him, and the fighting had stopped. Noah pooled his magic into his core.
How dare you!
Before Noah could blink, Kasina was on him again, striking at him with even faster and more vengeful swipes. If only he had been granted another couple of seconds. But as he was so busy with dodging and blocking, the magic he had collected to summon his other locked-away equipment fizzled into himself.
I told him secrets, but I never betrayed my body. I loved you, and you betrayed me. And just now, you insulted me? Fuck you!
Kasina's blade nearly dug into Noah's cheek.
After the war, he was there. You weren't. Just die already. Die and let me finish the mongrels who took you away from me.
Kasina drove the pommel into Noah's face, and his vision blurred for a moment. He moved to the side at the last moment and felt the whoosh of air trailing her sword.
Mother, stop this, please.
Noah leapt back about 8 feet and looked toward the doorway to the throne. Diane, Kachina, and Seto all stood together. Diane's face had contorted with immense concern, and her cheeks were still wet from the tears she had cried earlier.
Diane, what are you doing? That's a demon beside you. He is your enemy. I am stopping this once and for all. Just as soon... Fuck.
Noah's hand glowed with silver energy, and then he slammed his open palm on the ground. Kasina tried to fly away, and yet her face was contorted in a state of embarrassed rage and frustration. A dozen chains and shackles launched from the ground and latched onto her arms, her legs, her waist, and her throat. She tried to cut the chains away, but the blade only collided with the unbreakable metal of Noah's most utilized artifact. An instant later, Kasina slammed on the ground as the chains tightened. Diane blocked her from Noah and held out her arms and wings wide.
Please don't kill her.
Noah moved up to Diane and gave her a small smile.
I promise I won't kill her, but I am taking her prisoner and destroying her ring and her sword. Please, stand aside.
For a few seconds, Diane stood defiantly, and then she lowered her arms and wings. Noah moved past her and pointed a palm at Kasina's sword.
Damn you and your chains!
Artifact destruct.
A greenish light burst from Noah's palm, and it slammed into the sword. The sword crumbled into dust within seconds. Noah placed a hand over the ring on Kasina's hand.
Are you fully healed?
Kasina spit in his face. Noah sighed and then destroyed the ring. He waved his hand about, and the shackles that bound Kasina's arms slowly and comfortably moved her arms behind her back. Noah spoke words of power and then placed a set of silver handcuffs on Kasina's wrists. As soon as she was secured, Noah dismissed the shackles.
Is it finally over?
No, it's not. The worst is yet to come.
All eyes fell on Noah, but he didn't explain further. Noah spoke in his native tongue.
Please make me a sphere that creates a wide aura of protection. Please protect it from the dreaded power of the Pythandra. Let nothing within the diameter of the sphere be affected by any sort of alteration or nullification. Please protect those inside.
The words flew past his lips and then formed a circular object. It glowed brightly, and then the light faded. A milky white sphere hung in the air, and a small bubble of magical energy started to emerge from it. Slowly it expanded outward, and it covered the entire throne room before extending through the walls. Noah turned to Kazuna.
Are you still able to fly?
Yeah. Why?
Seto, I need you too. In fact, anyone who can still fly, fly out and tell your people to get inside the bubble as quickly as you can. There's no telling when Arcadian...
The air shifted, and then it buzzed with subtle, vibrating power. Kasina let out a small but hollow-sounding laugh.
He's here. Arcadian has arrived with the Pythandrial. All is lost for your mongrel race.
Noah spoke in his tongue again.
Please make me a pendant that will make me immune to the effects of the Pythandra. Prevent me from being modified, altered, or nullified.
His words flourished in the air, and then a milky white pendant hung around his neck. Noah summoned his magic once more, and then activated the artifact equipment he had long sealed within his body. His entire body glowed. A pair of silver greaves covered his calves, silver bracers covered his forearms, and a dazzling silver breastplate covered his chest. A helmet formed on his head, and Noah looked out through the narrow visor. Scales covered his arms and legs where the other armor did not protect. Noah extended his wings, and then he gripped his spear all the harder.
Whoa.
Whoa is right.
Noah flapped his wings and then flew up about 10 feet.
I'll do my best to stop this. Thank you all for standing with me. And Kasina, I'm sorry.
His friends, and Kasina for that matter, yelled things at him, but Noah blocked them out. There was no more time for pleasantries and kind exchanges. Noah flew out through a window and then climbed higher into the taupe-colored sky. In the far distance, a small portal coming from Heavenos had opened up. A single black dot hovered before it. Noah glanced down and beheld the white, milky bubble. The bubble had covered the entire palace, and perhaps 600 or 700 feet past the gatehouse at the bottom of the stairs. What a pity it wasn't larger. Noah soared toward the portal with all of his speed. When it closed, his heart sank a little, but then he noticed the black dot approached him. Arcadian came into view within a couple of minutes. A vicious and evil smile creased his face, although it fell for but a moment when he noticed Noah. The vile archangel stopped in midair, high above the capital city. In one hand he carried his two-handed sword, and in the other... Noah stopped about 15 feet away from Arcadian, and he locked his gaze on the object in the other hand. Arcadian clutched a small brown box with an obvious line between its lid and the rest of the artifact. The exterior of the Pythandral was unadorned and undecorated. Considering what it did, the Pythandral didn't need any ornamentation. Arcadian gave Noah a brutish snarl.
That damn door of yours was a foul trick indeed. Well, it doesn't matter, because I have this!
He gestured to the box in his hand.
Don't open it, Arcadian. No one is meant to have that kind of power.
This coming from a warped mind who created it. How ironic. Bear witness to your greatest regret. See how your creation will unravel everything you chose to betray us for.
Arcadian, no!
Arcadian used the pommel of his sword to lean against the top of the box. His smile grew wider as he opened the Pythandrel. Noah simply stared in horror. A small angel statuette was within the box, with its wings stretched out, and its hands held as if it were dancing.
What is this?
Noah gripped his spear shaft tighter, and he stared at the little dancer.
For the love of Heavenos, please close the box. If there was ever any decency in you, please close the lid.
How is this going to unravel Helos? I want Helos destroyed.
Noah's gut clenched, and he soared forward with all of his speed. He activated his speed greaves, his increased strength, and his armor. However, Noah heard the music before he even made it halfway to the distance. Noah still tried to get to the box, but Arcadian flew backwards, all the while looking at the little box. The tiny little angel started spinning around slowly, and a haunting dirge danced on the air. Noah stabbed out with his spear, hoping to dislodge the Pythandrel from Arcadian's hand. But the Archangel General parried the spear tip away, and continued to move away. Arcadian switched his gazes between Noah and the box, and his eager anticipation was akin to a child on the eve of his birthday.
Close it!
The ground far below them crumbled and fell away into a black void of nothingness. People screamed, and a massive crowd of demons fled toward the bubble's boundary. However, even as they ran, the streets split open and swallowed a great many people. Arcadian howled with laughter before he spun through the air, just out of Noah's reach. The Pythandrel continued to play.
I see now. Yes. How delicious. The Pythandrel does what I want.
Noah flew up beside Arcadian and stabbed EA at him, but Arcadian blocked, dodged, and then countered. The edge of Arcadian's blade almost tore open Noah's thigh. Even with the added protection, Arcadian's sword was immensely powerful. Arcadian started attacking, but he always kept the Pythandrel just beyond Noah's reach.
Hear my words, Pythandrel. Leave the ground, but make the air toxic to any who isn't an angel. Let acid consume their lungs from the inside out.
The Pythandrel tune changed ever so slightly, and another haunting dirge of woe warps the fabric of Helos' reality. Barely noticeable waves of energy rippled off of the box within Arcadian's hand. The ground stopped breaking, but a greenish tint saturated the air. Thankfully, the effects didn't pass through the milky white barrier of the bubble.
You did something, didn't you? It doesn't matter. Once you're dead, I'll rewrite whatever spell you casted and devastate those you're fighting so fiercely to protect.
Despite only fighting with one arm, Arcadian still managed to keep Noah back. Their weapons clashed against one another again and again, and yet Noah came no closer to closing the Pythandrel. People screamed out below them, but their screams soon died away.
How does it feel to be failing again? You couldn't beat me to save that demon bitch, and you won't beat me now.
Most of the area surrounding the white bubble had been consumed by thick hazes of green miasma. A grim silence fell on the city below them, with only the sounds of their metal smashing into one another breaking the silence.
Pythandrel, hear me. Sync your power with that of the bubble and shrink it. Kill the Helosians. Kill all those Marzo protects.
Noah flew back and he glanced down at the bubble. To his relief, Arcadian didn't attack him, but he also watched in hopeful anticipation. The song of the Pythandrel climbed higher in pitch, and then it happened. It was a slow thing at first, but the milky white bubble started to shrink. People within the bubble screamed out.
Arcadian, stop this!
Noah launched himself at Arcadian, and he stabbed and thrust over and over.
No!
As Noah pressed in on his attack, he also stole peeks at the bubble. It had fallen back to the gatehouse. A moment later, it was near the top of the stairs. A moment later, the bubble shrank inside the palace. A wild anxiety flourished within him. What was he supposed to do? He was failing his friends. They were going to die because of him. Arcadian laughed, and he started slashing and thrusting at Noah with a smug arrogance. Time was running out. Noah's mind pulsated with a single idea, and so he did it as soon as it echoed within his mind. He rushed Arcadian with all of his speed. A confident smirk crossed Arcadian's face, and he pushed his blade toward Noah. Noah winced. He soared forward all the harder. He couldn't stop now, even if he wanted to. Instead, Noah stabbed forward with EA as Arcadian's greatsword cut open his breastplate. And more importantly, the flesh of his stomach. Arcadian's eyes widened as EA dug into the base of his throat, right above the top of his chest. And Noah kept rushing forward until the hilt of Arcadian's sword was touching Noah's belly. Noah's wings faltered, and then they stopped working altogether. So did Arcadian's. They fell together, and neither Archangel said a word. Within Arcadian's eyes, great hate flickered like a forest fire. He still held on to the Pythandrel, even as they came closer to the ground. Noah angled himself so that way his back was to the sky, and he simply frowned at Arcadian. When they struck the ground, everything went black. Noah slowly opened his eyes, and Arcadian's blade was still lodged within his stomach. Arcadian was 12 feet away. EA had been snapped in the fall, and the spearhead still jutted from Arcadian's body. Arcadian's legs were bent in the wrong ways. Upon looking down, Noah realized his own knees were smashed as well, and his legs refused to comply with his urgings. Arcadian laid on his back, and he reached out to the Pythandrel, which sat upright coincidentally. The small angel figure still twirled, and the horrid melody still echoed out. Noah placed his palm against the flat of the blade.
Artifact destruct.
Arcadian's sword fizzled into dust, and Noah's silver blood spilled out from him. Despite that, he rolled onto his stomach, and he crawled closer to the Pythandrel. His vision kept blacking out momentarily. Arcadian locked gazes with him.
Damn you, Marzo. Why must you always get in my way? I have only ever acted for Vernot.
No. You have only acted out of hate.
Closer and closer. And yet Noah's strength rapidly left him. However, he didn't have the time to think about such things. His friends needed him. Noah reached out and touched the Pythandrel with an index finger.
Pythandrel, please hear me. Stop killing the Halosians now. Please, return everything to how it was.
The tiny angel dancer stopped, and then it slowly reversed its spin. A new melody slithered into Noah's ears. At once the air cleaned up, and the ground rose back up from the darker nether regions. One such crevice was near where Arcadian and Noah had fallen, and the ground returned to normal. Hundreds of dead bodies were returned to the surface. The ground where they struck had been painted in thick coats of black blood. Noah winced, and a sudden idea came to mind. A longing sense of uneasy dread twisted within his heart, and yet he dared to make the request anyway.
Pythandrel, please. Can you please resurrect all the people who died today? Angel, demon, devil, mage blood, and... Kitsune.
The air rippled with intense warbles, and then a happy tune saturated the air. Noah felt the warbling ripple past him, and then he stared at the mass of dead bodies. His lower body had gone completely numb, and the creeping stillness had started flowing up to his arms. The warbling passed over the bodies, and then hundreds of demons and devils sat up. Noah smiled, but then he noticed Arcadian looking at him. His once friend and now mortal foe only watched him. There wasn't any kind of pleading eyes, only the echoes of the hate that once dominated his actions. It was clear. Arcadian's strength was fading too. Noah looked to the Pythandrel, just sitting there, ripe for anyone else to snatch up. It had been such an easy thing for Noah to undo what Arcadian had done. And perhaps it was just as easy for Arcadian to unleash devastation. Easy. Noah pointed a palm at the Pythandrel. He paused, drew in a breath, of which he only had a finite number remaining, and he spoke.
Artifact destruct.
A green orb of energy formed in his palm and it sailed toward the artifact. It slammed into the Pythandrel, and then it started glowing a little more green. Arcadian screamed out, but Noah didn't care. He watched as the tiny dancer stopped spinning. Was it his dying delirium? Or did the Pythandrel dancer smile at him? The Pythandrel crumbled into dust seconds later.
Always playing the hero, Marzo. You are so
Arcadian's eyes closed and his head slumped over. Noah gazed at his old comrade, the man who once strove to defend angel kind and fell into darkness and hate.
This is my penance for not staying to stop you.
Noah swung himself onto his back, which took all of his remaining strength. When he exhaled, bits of his spirit went out into the Halosian air. His eyes felt so heavy. The world was so much colder now, and yet it wasn't such a terrible thing. To be honest, Noah had feared what this feeling would be like. He expected much more pain, much more emotional anguish, and he expected to die a runaway failure. He smiled. No. When it finally came down to it, Noah had finally succeeded.
Noah!
Noah turned his head, and then his cheek hit the icy stone street of the demon capital. In the distance, he saw them. His friends. Demi, Samuel, Kazuna, and Issa all ran toward him, and farther back behind them were Seto, Kachina, and Diane. Issa's, Kazuna's, and Demi's faces were contorted with such despair. Meanwhile, Samuel had such a serious expression, and he glared at Noah as if demanding that Noah defied what was already almost complete. Noah's eyelids drooped closed. His strength had finally trickled out of him completely. A single thought echoed in his mind. His very last thought.
Goodbye, my precious friends.